Welcome, everyone. This is Umi Vera, part of the campaign and organizing team with Familia Trans Queer Liberation Movement, bringing you a very amazing installment conversation panel for Trans Diaspora of Resilience for this International Week of Trans Awareness Week, and also for November 20th, Trans Day of Resilience and Remembrance. We're very lucky to be joined by incredible leaders from all over our globe and locally. We have with us all the way from Colombia, who's joining us and we'll hear more from in a few moments, Julia Salamanca. Bienvenida y gracias por acompañarnos hoy. And también tenemos a Joana Cifredo de Puerto Rico, gran organizadora y activista también. Y we are also joined by Wahida Label de Somalia y Kenia, que nos acompaña, as well as saludos para Alexandra de Ruiz, all the way from Mexico City. Joining us as well, Drea St. Clair desde Nueva York. Y también tenemos a Queen Jean, que también está en Nueva York. Y thank you all. You know, essentially, we wanted to have a conversation with incredible leaders doing incredible work. But, you know, I think they'll also be able to share some about themselves. And we have an icebreaker question so we can begin our conversations. Essentially, I wanted to hear from you all if you would, I shared your all's name, but if you would share with us yourself, your country of origin, and then specifically the icebreaker question is, how do you demonstrate resistance to trans misogyny? And yeah, you know, I could probably model for us, or if anybody would like to share first, and nobody's rushing, but yeah, I will, you know, I think one of the ways that I'll share that for me, I think just learning and growing with trans sisters. There's just so much about me that I feel like I can, so many guards that I can let go of and things that have been built out over time. Luckily, one of my biggest ways of resisting trans misogyny has been, you know, connecting with folks like you and connecting with dear loved ones locally who are also trans and keep us going. How about the rest of y'all? Who would like to share?
I can go first. My name is Alexandra Rodriguez Ruiz. I live in Mexico City. I was born here in Mexico for 3 years. And the way I resist trans misogyny, can you all hear me? I think my internet is unstable. I don't know what's going on.
I can hear you.
But I hope that you can hear me. Oh, good. It's every day being myself and not being afraid to be myself in public. Being visible as who I am and also we live in a society that tells us that we are disposable. You know, cis heteropatriarchy is all around us and we built into this society. But I think by being ourselves and resist the everyday hate and bullying and harassment and discrimination, and also be vocal about these violations of our human rights, I think that's how I resist myself every day, trans misogyny.
Ashe, thank you, Alexandra. Do you popcorn it to somebody on the panel?
About Drea. Let's hear about Drea.
Well, thank you, Alexandra. Yes, I am Drea St. Clair, and I was born in Jamaica, West Indies in 1983, and migrated to the States when I was 7, so that would be 1990. But as I was sharing with some folks earlier, that I am very much like Jamaicanness is so ingrained in who I am, and it is a culture with which I disidentify with in the terms of, in the sense of, there's so much national pride that I have, but it's also a place of such hurt. I actually have not even been back since I was 13, and that was to go back with family to bury a grandparent. And so not having been back there has been out of safety, and just fear as well. But in spite of that, the way that, to go back to your question, how do I resist trans misogyny? By living. We earlier, or in some conversation, that's right, Queen Jean mentioned, about 35 being the average age of Black trans women, and I'm 37 years old. I am past that, and for some people that could be considered, I guess, an elder, but I am 37 years old. That is nowhere close to being old. So, but because we live, that being the average age between suicides and murders, particularly with people who are intimate with us, it becomes, I hate to say a badge of honor, but to be here to live for yourself, for myself, and also live for those who have not been able to even get to the point where they've even met their true potential. What we've lost, we have Trans Day of Remembrance coming on Friday, and it is not lost on me that, we are carrying, as a Black trans woman, carrying the mantle of Marsha P. Johnson, right? It's having this kind of legacy actually keeps me going. And being a trans woman, a gender nonconforming trans woman, I think has instilled in me a level of empathy that allows me to understand the plights of others. And it's actually to remind myself, because the oppressed can actually become the oppressor. And so always interrogating myself, even as I have lived past 35, there's so much growing that I have to do. And so basically never ending this quest for growth. And just like, because I'm worthy of those things. I was raised in a way where, having to hide who I am in order to fit in, to avoid persecution. And it's interesting how even as a child, that is ingrained in us. And so we close off some of ourselves. So right now for me, part of my activism is just being able to like get up, put on my best face, and show the world who I am in various rooms that I'm in. But today I am especially happy to just be in this virtual space with all of you, because I was actually, before we even started recording for this conversation, we had our preamble conversation, just listening to everyone and all the work that we are doing on a global scale. It just goes to show, once given the chance, how much we contribute to human rights. The civil rights movement would be nothing without women, I think, at the fore. And so with us as trans women, we are coming from an experience of just like, we have had to find hope when there's basically none. So my resistance is, in spite of societal trans misogyny, I'm here past 35, and I'm going to keep growing, and not, and keep resisting and keep living for my trans brothers and sisters who've come before, and also, if I can, be a role model of some sort, possibility model for my trans siblings who come after.
Hey.
And I'm going to popcorn it. I know Queen Jean, so I'm not popcorning it to you. I'm going to popcorn it to Wahira. And please correct me if I'm correct, pronouncing your name incorrectly.
You said it so right. Thank you. People often get my name so wrong, and it just drives me crazy. So yeah, you got it right. Let me introduce myself. My name is Wahira. I am originally from Somalia. I grew up in Kenya. I migrated from Somalia because of civil war. I left Somalia when I was 5 years old, so I ended up in Kenya. So I pretty much grew up in a refugee camp, on and off. yeah, how do I resist trans misogyny? I think it's just echoing everyone else. It's like by existing. Um, I believe my existence is my resistance. Owning my own power that is being taken away from me. I am now realizing that it's the people outside of my body that are misguided. Nothing is wrong with me. I am indigenous. I came from a deep-rooted, beautiful culture. So when I look in the mirror, I see strength. I see victory. I see a young trans woman in a small village that didn't have a language for her identity, that used to just sit under a big mogumo tree and praying, to like try to find myself at such a young age, So I embody all that. And, with all the intersectionality I have, being Black, being trans, and also being a migrant, someone who have an accent, all those intersectionality, I embody it and I carry it like a jacket. I wear it like a jacket. And that's a badge for me. So that's how I resist, by not really asking for permission, no one is entitled to how I supposed to navigate this world, So I am my own power, and I have a space on this earth, and I will always going, every chance I get, I will speak for another Black trans migrant, that doesn't have a voice, So yeah, resistance is the most important word. Yeah, resistance. My resistance and my existence is my resistance. Yeah.
Hey.
I'm gonna pass it to Queen Jean. Beautiful chocolate.
Yes, hi. Hello, beautiful angels. Hi, I'm Queen Jean, originally from Port-au-Prince, Haiti. I came to Miami when I was 10. And let me make sure. Yeah, and pronouns she, her. But in terms of resisting trans misogyny, I'll be very honest. I'm in a space where I am completely confident and powerful in trans power. I definitely confront and I will educate Black men, any men, who really require and desire our bodies in the darkest of night, but then in the daytime, they will not hold your hand. They will not take you to church. They will not take you to see their abuela. They will not take you, right, to be in society, but they will be with you in the night. And they will then kill you if someone sees you together. That to me is something that I want to fight. That is my resistance. My resistance is showing up and saying, no, if you want to be with me, if you want to be with my sisters, you have got to love us. You've got to proudly celebrate us. We're not interested in being someone who's going to be there for you. Trans women always support you. Trans women always give you money. We give you clothes. We even give you a bed to sleep in, but you do not protect us. So that for me is my resistance. I'm gonna fight you, I'm gonna educate you, I'm going to ensure that when you come to a trans woman, when you come to hold space with us, that you are bringing offering to us. Because Black trans women, brown trans women, we are the temple. You come and you bring a sacrifice, you bring an offering to us. I'm tired of us always being sacrificed. That is my resistance. Thank you. And I will pass it on to, did Luciana go? No.
Julia hasn't gone.
Okay, Julia.
Bienvenida, Julia.
Hola, no saben la emoción y la felicidad que me da estar acá con todas y con todos ustedes. Creo que la revolución trans es ahora y ya está llegando a muchos de los países donde vivimos. Mi nombre es Juli Salamanca, soy colombiana, soy una mujer trans que trabaja en una organización llamada Red Comunitaria Trans. Y yo creo que resistencia es, pues vivimos en un mundo que históricamente se ha encargado de negar nuestras existencias. Vivimos en un mundo que nos ha dicho que está mal ser una persona trans. Vivimos en un mundo que se ha encargado de decirnos que no podemos, que solo nos podemos dedicar a algo las personas trans, que nos tienen que rehabilitar. Entonces yo creo que resistencia es que cada una y cada uno de nosotros esté vivo. Y resistencia es que nos podamos construir como queremos, viéndonos al espejo y sintiéndonos orgullosas y orgullosos de lo que somos y de lo que hemos construido, así el mundo se caiga, así el mundo diga que las mujeres son así, que los hombres son así, que las personas no binarias no existen. Yo creo que resistir es soñar. Y en Latinoamérica, que la expectativa de vida de las mujeres trans es de 35 años, yo creo que la venganza más dulce de las personas trans es llegar a viejas. Es llegar a viejas en condiciones dignas, rodeadas de amor y haciendo lo que soñamos y queremos. Por eso creo que resistir es pensar que cuando cada niño, cada niña y cada niño trans sueña, está resistiendo. Cuando cada niño, cada adolescente trans están hablando de su identidad de género, de construirse como quieren, estamos resistiendo. Pero por otro lado también creo que las personas trans tenemos que dejar de resistir ante la violencia. No más, no más resistir. Creo que tenemos que pasar a la acción. ¿Sí? Ese cuento de que somos súper fuertes y nos tenemos que aguantar todas las violencias, no. ¿Sí? No más resistir ante la violencia. Pasemos a la acción, a la ternura radical, a las acciones en las calles que nos han hecho hoy un movimiento fuerte, un movimiento autónomo, que no permite que nos fiscalicen el tono y que nosotras y nosotros hablamos por nosotras mismos, que no necesitamos a nadie. Y eso es pasar de la resistencia a la acción.
Oh my gosh. Muy, muy bonito dicho, gran poder de mujeres trans, de mujeres que hay aquí en el panel y con todas ustedes localmente donde están, movilizan con muchas personas y particularmente como nos cuentas, Julia, de acuerdo, ya basta con el hecho de que la resistencia tiene que ser que vamos a sobrepasar cada cosita y así pasarla, pero la acción, hablando de la acción y particularmente cómo movilizan ustedes en Colombia y particularmente la atención que le traen al gobierno sobre la desaparición de muchas mujeres, muchas chicas trans. Ahorita particularmente tienen varias campañas y hemos colaborado con ustedes en apoyar ciertas acciones. Tienen las campañas de emergencia nacional por la violencia machista y también nos encanta también la campaña que tienen Estamos Putas, una clave reclamación de que no sé, me llega mucho, pero ¿podrías contarnos un poquito más sobre las acciones de las que mencionas que llevan a cabo ustedes?
Creo que faltaba Joana por presentarse, ¿o no?
Sí, creo que faltaba Joana.
Disculpa, Joana. Hay que regresar. Gracias, Julia. Guarda eso en mente y hay que, por favor, escuchar de nuestra hermana Joana también. Joana, ¿podrías compartir con nosotros también de cómo es que tú resistes la transmisoginia?
First off, thank you to everyone who shared their story. I feel so honored and so privileged to be included in this conversation with so many great poderosas. This is how I resist. You know, I believe trans people, we are the salt of the earth. You know, we have been sent here on special missions to awaken the world. And one of the things I love about being trans is that we are part of a global community, you know, that wherever we go, we can always find our own. And there's power in that. And so my sisters, my community, that's what feeds my soul. It's what keeps me in the fight. As one of the panelists said, you know, I feel an immense responsibility to the trans women who came before us, you know, our freedom fighters, and a huge responsibility to the generations coming after us. I so organizing fierce radical love. You know, that's how I resist. I believe sometimes we get so caught up in fighting for what we're against that we forget what we're fighting for. You know, Dr. King said that the short-term goal of the civil rights movement was the establishment of civil rights, but the long-term goal was the establishment of the beloved community. And that's what we're working towards. We're working towards that beloved community, that world of justice and of peace and of love. And so I feel so much pride and so happy. It's lifting up my soul. For the people out there watching, right now I'm recovering from COVID. So this is immensely nourishing for me. So thank you.
This is very, very real. You know, we are dealing with a lot. Joanna, I'm just, thank you so much for that and for being with us, all of you all, and the context. There's so many powerful ways that each of you all and all of us collectively are resisting. We're already quoting you all a lot, and thank you for offering that, Joanna. I think you said it very well. You shared that one of the things that you love about being trans is that we are part of a global community, and so thank you all for your context there and bringing that for sure, and also for the conversations around where we're at with resiliency and how we're surpassing resiliency with, radical loving and nurturing of each other and radical action on stopping all sorts of violences. And one of our first topics today is, state-sanctioned violence and la resistencia de la comunidad trans, la resistencia feminista hacia el Estado y la violencia. Y sabemos que en Red Comunitaria Trans, Julia, ustedes están organizando varias campañas. ¿Y qué nos cuentas del trabajo que están haciendo ahorita ustedes?
Bueno, primero, creo que para hablar de memoria trans, también tenemos que recordar a todas esas personas que ya no están y que han dado su vida y su lucha por construir un mundo donde todas las personas trans podamos vivir felices y sin miedo. Y en Colombia la situación actual de las personas trans es una situación tenebrosa y miedosa y muy grave, ya que desde enero a la fecha han asesinado a 30 personas trans por ser trans. Es decir, nos siguen matando, nos siguen aniquilando los sueños, la esperanza por ser transgénero, por ser mujeres y hombres trans. Esta cifra no representa la realidad, ya que hay un subregistro gigante de asesinatos de personas trans, ya que en Colombia no hay un censo poblacional de personas trans. Es decir, en Colombia solo existen mujeres y hombres, no tienen ni idea de cuántas personas trans existimos. Esto quiere decir que cuando registran las muertes de personas trans, ejemplo, una mujer trans, nos siguen registrando como hombres empelucados. Es decir, a las personas trans nos están matando dos veces. Primero, cuando nos clavan el cuchillo, cuando nos ponen la rodilla en el cuello, pero también cuando los medios de comunicación, cuando la fiscalía no reconoce nuestra construcción identitaria. Entonces, la situación en Colombia es muy grave para los derechos humanos de las personas trans. Nosotras hemos posicionado una frase y es: en Colombia es una sentencia de muerte ser una persona trans, porque no se han tomado las acciones necesarias para evitar el asesinato sistemático de personas trans. Un poco lo que habíamos adelantado en campañas, son 3 campañas que nos llenan de mucha esperanza, viendo cómo está el mundo en este momento y lo que ha causado el COVID en la vida de las personas trans, porque lo que hizo el COVID es visibilizar una situación de exclusión y de negación de derechos que ha existido por décadas, ¿sí? Que las personas trans sean pobres no es nuevo ni lo ha causado el COVID. Lo que hizo el COVID es visibilizarlo. Primero lo que hicimos fue una gran campaña preguntándonos qué va a pasar con las personas trans y con las trabajadoras sexuales trans que no fueron incluidas dentro del plan de contingencia para combatir el COVID. Es decir, ¿qué van a hacer las trabajadoras sexuales para comer? ¿Qué van a hacer para pagar sus arriendos? ¿Qué van a hacer si no pueden trabajar? Armamos una campaña que logró darle vivienda y alimentos a más de 1.600 trabajadoras sexuales de Colombia, dando un poco respuesta a la ausencia del Estado. Por eso cuando estoy en paneles con personas trans, me llena de tanta emoción porque las organizaciones trans comunitarias nos toca trabajar con las uñas. ¿Sí? En Colombia las organizaciones trans son las que menos financian y con las uñas logramos que 1.500 personas trans, trabajadoras sexuales, tuvieran para pagar su arriendo y para comer. Uno de las grandes campañas también que estamos haciendo, por la cual nos llaman locas, soñadoras, eso nunca se va a poder, es que somos la primera organización trans en Colombia que habla de abolir la policía, de por qué es necesario empezar un proceso gradual de desfinanciar la policía, una institución que históricamente nos ha matado, nos ha secuestrado, nos ha violentado y nos ha hecho mucho daño. ¿Sí? Nos han llamado locas, eso no se puede, en un país tan violento como Colombia, eso es imposible, pero nos estamos dando la pelea porque nuestros cuerpos son los principales objetos de agresión por parte de la policía. El 8% de los casos de violencia policial acá en Bogotá son contra personas trans. Y otra campaña que nos llega de mucha alegría y de mucha emoción es Estamos Putas. Estamos Putas por la violencia policial contra trabajadoras sexuales. Estamos putas por la negación de derechos a trabajadoras sexuales trans. Esta campaña buscaba visibilizar la situación de exclusión, de violación de derechos a las que se enfrentan todos los días las trabajadoras sexuales y las personas trans. Y con esta campaña buscábamos, por un lado, visibilizar la situación, pero por otro lado también buscar diferentes ayudas para que las trabajadoras sexuales lograran sobrellevar de una manera digna esta pandemia. Todas estas acciones van encaminadas, que creo que es como que los derechos de las personas trans no se debaten, ¿sí? Se garantizan. Y todos estos discursos de odio que se están fortaleciendo últimamente no tienen cabida, ¿sí? Yo no discuto sobre el derecho que tengo yo como persona trans de vivir, de la educación, de el derecho a la ciudad, ¿sí? Son derechos y no se discuten.
Eso, sí, de acuerdo. Para todos los que nos están viendo, pueden seguir todo el trabajo que está haciendo Red Comunitaria Trans en sitios de Instagram, en las redes sociales, en Facebook. Incluso a principios de octubre, el 1 de octubre, tuvimos una movilización que pudimos ayudar a conectar el esfuerzo de fundir la policía y hablar sobre la militarización, creo que específicamente en Bogotá y lo que ha resultado en las muertes de muchas chicas trans, con los esfuerzos de las universidades públicas en el estado de California, que han estado empujando para difundir las policías, los contratos con las policías en las universidades. Entonces ese día varias universidades en California pudieron resaltar los esfuerzos que llevan ustedes allá en Colombia también. Y estamos viendo y estamos con ustedes, hermana, que todo el mundo está viendo lo que están haciendo y no sé si otras gustes también compartir, pero obviamente eso es algo que está pasando en varias partes, en muchas partes del mundo, incluso donde están nuestras panelistas. quería traer el hecho de que pues también ahorita está en Perú, sus vecinos también están en resistencia contra el golpe de Estado y mucha violencia que está ocurriendo, las movilizaciones resistiendo todo esto, dirigidas por muchas comunidades trans y queer negras y comunidad en Perú. So también estamos al tanto de todo eso de la comunidad trans y queer y a ver si pronto podemos escuchar más de ellos.
Yo creo que es importante ahí también como incluir que en medio de la pandemia se adoptaron políticas en contra de la vida de las personas trans, como ocurrió en Perú, como ocurrió en Panamá, como ocurrió acá en Colombia, que fueron medidas como el pico y género, que incrementaron la violencia contra personas trans, le permitía a la policía y a las demás personas decir según su criterio si uno es mujer o si no es hombre. Es decir, el movimiento trans ha luchado toda la vida porque nadie se meta en nuestro cuerpo, porque nadie nos diga cómo debemos comportarnos y cómo debemos ser por lo que tenemos entre las piernas. Y este decreto le daba la potestad a la policía que dijera si nosotras éramos hombres o mujeres y así podíamos salir a la calle o no podíamos salir. Entonces la reflexión es, ninguna política pública se puede adaptar en ningún país a costa del bienestar de ningún grupo social. Y lo que ha hecho las organizaciones transcomunitarias de dar respuesta, de generar redes de afecto y sororidad para dar respuesta a sus pares es gigante. Y creo que en la movilización social que se ha vivido tan fuerte acá en Bogotá, en Colombia, como Perú, las personas trans tenemos que cuidarnos porque somos objetos fácil y somos focos de perfilamiento por parte de la policía. La policía nos perfila, la policía en la movilización social, así no estemos haciendo algo, ellos siempre van a perfilar, es decir, la culpa siempre va a ser de la trans. Entonces tengamos cuidado, tomemos acciones de cuidado colectivo para cuando salgamos a movilizarnos, a exigir nuestros derechos, estemos acompañadas, no estemos solos porque somos presa fácil del perfilamiento policial.
De acuerdo, de acuerdo. Y está, sí, cierto, de acuerdo. Tenemos comentarios de Fuck the Police y todas las acciones contra lo que funda el Estado, la violencia hacia la gente. Y también, como lo vemos también, por ejemplo, en la isla de Puerto Rico, la militarización, y mucho lo que está ocurriendo y por eso estamos muy contentas de que tenemos la compañía de nuestra colega Joana, que nos encanta todo lo que nos cuentas sobre las razones por las cuales has regresado a tu isla, a tu país, y estás creando mucho ahorita con los planes y con la organización de Camp Albizu. Bienvenida, Joana, y puedes compartirnos un poquito más de lo que hemos compartido ahorita y la conexión con los esfuerzos de Camp Albizu.
Sí, actualmente en Puerto Rico digamos 60%, alrededor de 60 a 65% de nuestra población que ya no vive aquí. A consecuencia, eso quiere decir que 60 a 65% de nuestros jóvenes no están aprendiendo español y no están aprendiendo de su historia. Y sin ese contexto vital, los jóvenes no contarán con la herramienta para luchar por el país. Y actualmente se está tomando decisiones que van a impactar el país para los próximos 50 años, que estamos hablando que si no levantamos una nueva generación de líderes, no va a quedar el país para defender. Entonces, yo siempre he tenido un gran compromiso con la juventud, sobre todo la juventud queer, que somos, o sea, las personas queer, las personas trans, siempre, como dijo la compañera, we have been a vital component in social justice movements. Entonces, lo que estamos haciendo con Camp Albizu es creando un programa de verano donde podemos traer jóvenes del Diaspora y aquí de Puerto Rico y darle las herramientas y los recursos y la mentoría para que ellos puedan luchar primero por sus propios derechos, porque el activismo empieza con uno, y luchar por los derechos y las necesidades de su comunidad. Aquí en Puerto Rico, o sea, los jóvenes que se van de Puerto Rico después de los huracanes, después de los terremotos, por la crisis económica, cuando van a los Estados Unidos, son lo que allá afuera le llaman at-risk youth. Estos son jóvenes de color que no hablan inglés, que en muchos casos son pobres, y muchas veces they fall through the cracks. Y los jóvenes que se quedan aquí en Puerto Rico tienen que lidiar con un sistema de educación subfinanciado, donde, vamos a hablar claro, el sistema educativo de Puerto Rico ha colapsado. O sea, hay miles y miles de jóvenes en los Estados Unidos, o sea, aquí en Puerto Rico, que no están recibiendo sus servicios educativos. Entonces, tenemos nosotros líderes, activistas, organizadores, gente de conciencia, tenemos que apoyar a estos jóvenes, esta población, y como dije, darle las herramientas para que puedan luchar por sus comunidades. Como dijo la compañera, en medio de la pandemia se ha implementado unas políticas bastante, o sea, que sabemos que no es por la salud pública. Actualmente la gobernadora no electa movilizó la Guardia Nacional para hacer implementar un toque de queda que lleva desde marzo. Nosotros aquí en Puerto Rico teníamos un toque de queda a las 10 de la noche y no ha funcionado. No ha funcionado porque, o sea, el mall, las plazas siguen abiertas. Sabemos que esto no se trata de salud pública, sabemos que estos son pasos, políticas que están hechas para oprimir el pueblo, para evitar que la gente se manifiesten. Entonces, estamos resistiendo.
No, de acuerdo, y gracias por compartir eso, porque también me acuerdo de que varias cosas que has compartido debido a que el hecho de que muchos de los jóvenes puertorriqueños no viven en la isla y están en otras partes de los Estados Unidos, y no en la isla específicamente, y también el hecho de que, hablando de justicia social, has visto y platicado de que en movilizaciones en todo el país, aquí siempre hay comunidades puertorriqueñas movilizando, y también la conexión que Campa Albizu permite para que los jóvenes puedan regresar y también aprender de justicia social y de todos y de todo lo útil que es pues poder regresar para conectar con la tierra aún. Sí, a seguir adelante, a nurturing las generaciones que siguen después también. Nos fascina, y creo que también has mencionado sobre la solidaridad entre, regional, etnia, de comunidades taínas, indígenas, comunidades negras. Y eso también nos trae el tema que sigue. We want to also speak about the Black diasporic trans magic and make room and space for that as well. On our panel we have today Drea joining us. And Drea, you'd mentioned earlier before that you are from Jamaica, and that you were raised there for part of your childhood and migrated to the States. Can you take us back to that and share a little bit more also about you and your bringing in Jamaica and migrating over here regarding social justice and you just being in your full magic out here?
Thank you. Yes. Look, I love my Jamaican roots, okay? And sometimes when I talk about Jamaica, you'll hear a little bit more of my accent, okay? But again, I came here when I was 7, so very young. And actually, when I came here, I didn't actually realize that we were coming here to stay forever. So it was in the dead of winter. And my father, the man who's my father, was here, making way for us to get here. But the motto of Jamaica is out of many, one people, right? And so we have, you know, the African roots, you know, the strength of that. Of course, there is also the European colonizer history. There's also the Indian migration. So that's where our motto, out of many, one people. Yet, some of us don't fit into that one people too neatly. And so, and when I'm talking about right there is, you know, LGBTQIA, all of the different letters that we could bring out, right? But in the context, a lot of times in Jamaica, everybody boiled down to just being a gay. You know what I'm saying? It's not, there's no space for the rest of the letters. Everybody just gay. And so it becomes, for me, being a Jamaican, it's part of the Caribbean, and yes, I have Caribbean roots, but it's specifically Jamaican roots, and it's a sense of pride. Like anybody else who's popular and cool, we claim them. Like Rihanna is Jamaican, okay? You can't tell Jamaican that Rihanna. Well, okay, you can't tell me that Rihanna is not Jamaican. We claim you, Rihanna, but it's one of those things because we have so much national pride. It's ingrained in us, and it doesn't it hasn't left me since being here in the United States. What really saddens me, though, is that I've not been back since I was 13. And again, that was to bury a grandparent. And there's this, I remember growing up there, you know, playing house with a next door neighbor and, you know, things happening. And, you know, in those situations, I was mommy. And how did I gravitate to that and how natural that is? And then, but also naturally knowing you don't tell that to anyone, okay? Otherwise you could get into trouble. And then, you know, coming to the States and then being encountered, yes, I had some issues around my gender stuff when I was growing up, always wishing, quote unquote, that I was born a girl because I was already, and at that age, being a girl was genitalia. So it really meant being born with a vagina. And then all of my natural inclinations would have been fine. So it wasn't until, well, you know, I didn't have all of the full context for that. But then coming to the United States at the age of 7, that's when I started learning about difference. But that wasn't really at the first, wasn't about my my gender. It was about the fact that I was Jamaican and I have an accent and being called by Black American kids a Jamaican booty scratcher, which is an extension of the African booty scratcher. Like nonsense like that. But kids can be so cruel to one another, but kids can also be loving because it is all about how we teach them. Because one thing that I you know, I'm jumping a bit here to talk about my sister who was born here. When I came to the States, it was me, my mom, and my sister Tara, who's 2 years younger than me. And so we were born in Jamaica, and then I have 2 other siblings who were born here in the States. But I brought up the fact that with kids, you know, they could be cruel, but they could also be loving. And I remember when I came out of the closet a while ago and I was in New York, and this was a long time. This was like when I was 20 and I was in New York, and after not seeing my sister for years because I was disowned. And again, I'm skipping ahead, jumping back. Life is not linear, so I can't really talk about like a lot of my experience in a very linear way. But you know, when I came out as a gender nonconforming person in my early 20s, I remember my sister, who's 22 now, she was maybe 5 at the time. And I remember she had not seen me in years in person because I was disowned. And she was walking towards me. She didn't recognize me. And as soon as she got to me, and it was raining that day, and she's a diva, she had on sunglasses in the rain. I remember this very vividly. And she came closer to me, and she tilts her glasses down in her diva way that she still has today. Andre, my dead name. Why you dressing like a girl? And I was like totally embarrassed and freaked out because people were looking at us, me, whatever. And I'm like, oh, shh, calm down, wait till we get upstairs. And as a minute we walk inside of where I was living at the time, Andre, why are you dressing like a girl? And I simply said to my sister, because this is how I feel, this is what makes me happy, this is what makes me feel whole. And she goes, okay, can I watch TV? And I was totally flabbergasted by that because it was this was the thing that was like creating a lot of angst, just what her response would be. And the fact that, you know, with grown people, you can't, I couldn't even have that conversation with them. But here with a 5-year-old, she was ready to just be like, okay, great, I love you. Let's keep it moving. But I brought that up because like, I just feel like that is a necessary part of the story. But coming from Jamaica, and then also from a culture where the motto is out of many one people, but not feeling like I'm totally honored or seen, and that has led to me feeling as though like a place of, wait a minute, of ambivalence of, and it actually carries on to how I feel about so many other things, where as much as how can you love something that hates you? And it's very much a part of Blackness, because one thing that I have learned is that, you know, I love Blackness. I love my culture and my specific Black Jamaican culture, my roots. But I always have to justify my belonging there. And I have to like justify that for myself, because a lot of times I am, people judge you based on what you look like and have all these preconceived notions. And I grew up, yes, I'm an immigrant, grew up working class, poor, and then was able to get a academic scholarship to leave home. And this was when I was living in East New York, Brooklyn, which is very much a Jamaican. There's a lot of Jamaican roots in East New York, and it was at the time in the 90s when I lived there, one of the poorest parts of Brooklyn, and I think probably still is. But having to leave, I left home for a scholarship program, not because I felt like I needed to leave my school. I was already at a good school, but I was leaving because I was running away from home. Because my father was very violent towards my mom, and having to always protect her and fight for her, it wasn't conducive to my own growth. So leaving home, and then actually went to high school in Minnesota. That came up already in Minnesota came up in conversation. But then after that, then going to college, but then starting to understand what it is that I was battling through as far on the personal level, that being my gender and my sexuality. And coming out first as a gender non-conforming gay man during my freshman year of college, towards the end of my freshman year of college, and I fell into a huge depression. And when I came out of the closet to my mom, one of the first things that she said to me, and I'm not going to get into how I came out to her right now, but one of the things that she said to me is that at the time, and full disclosure, I do use my dead name sometimes in talking about my story, and it's not something that a lot of trans people like to use, those who do have a dead name, but I'm using mine. I love Andre. Andre is a part of me. I love that person. But for one of the things that she said to me, my mom, was, you know, this is, of course, and I think it definitely came from a place of love, not necessarily a place of, I don't think, totally understanding that it was very much something that could harm me, was in the sense of, you know, this is not what I would want for you. Of course, I don't think a lot of parents would want for their children to be more oppressed. Okay. So that's where she was coming from. But she said to me, you know, I will always love you. But let's see if we can, you know, not say this to your father. And that definitely was coming from a place of concern. And if you take a look at when some people decide to come out of the closet, it's whatever closet, sometimes it is after you've made a way for yourself. And then you could come out because like you have safety, you have economic safety, social safety, whatever that safety could be. But I fell into a deep depression. And while I was an undergrad at Brown University, Ivy League and whatnot, before coming out, the person who's my father on his side of the family, of course, my son who I'll go to Brown University, and being so proud of that. But when I came out of the closet, that same person, that same man who's the sperm donor that created all of this, he said to me, this was one of the very last conversations that we had, was that if you are still in Jamaica, I would have somebody kill you, say boy. Now, those words ring in my ear. Like, it's not every day, but it is something in the fore of my memory, because I am living today because, like, I want to show, I have my own drive and ambition, but I also want to just keep living and do the best, be the best me that I can be, just to show him my worth. Like, I feel as though sometimes me showing my full power, my full magic, Black girl magic, is about proving him wrong. I'm an actor. One of the things he said to me also was, nobody will ever put somebody like you on TV. Yet, we have polls out there. We have all these things out, all these new shows that it doesn't fix everything, but we are here. We are making strides, and we're going to keep fighting. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, very agreed. Affirming what you're saying, for sure. I feel like you're definitely helping us make a lot of connections in terms of, like, you know, your migration. And I think as you're sharing your story, you're reminding me of like a theme that I think Wahida has also shared. You were going to make some connections also in terms of like your migration and then coming into work into like defunding the police, but I think we'll hold off on that on just a moment, because it's definitely a great thread that connects with a lot of people, a lot of the work that everybody else is talking about too. And then I think what you're sharing in terms of your migration is reminding me of what Wahida, you've said a few times, you know, that you as a Black trans refugee person, you're creating your own tribe. And I know that in our conversations, similar to how Drea is saying, you've talked about like reclamation. And I think specifically when it's like, you've spoken about, you're a multilingual speaker, you speak about like, you know, 5 or I don't know how many different languages, but you've spoken specific,
Five, yes.
5 languages. And you've spoken about reclaiming Indigenous languages and creating trans identity around, you know, bringing about language in Somali and in other Indigenous languages to carve out the fact that we've always existed. Being, you know, that we've heard Drea and we've heard Julia and Joanna, what do you share about what you mean in terms of creating your own tribe and these efforts that you are bringing about and carving out trans identity?
Yeah, thank you. You know, so when I first came to America, it was very hard for me to fit in within the broader African community. You can imagine coming to a foreign country, not speaking the language very fluently, and trying to find, the first thing you do when you migrate is you're looking for the people that look like you, right? But as a trans person, trying to fit in within the broader African community, it wasn't the right fit for me, you know? And I was trying to like really force myself into spaces that I really I was not accepted, you know? And I struggled with that a lot. I just also wanted to just emphasize what my sister Drea was saying. It's like people, you know, the world doesn't really understand how powerful and strong trans people are. You know, you can imagine how small of a percentage we are, how tiny we are. We are like less than any kind of percentage, right? And look how powerful we are. Look how with that little number, look the work we are doing, you know? So it's people, I feel like because we have this amazing strength that naturally, because we come and embody all kind of identities and just having strength with that, you know, that's what really gets me going every day. So anyway, going back to my experience as, you know, in America, I could not find a place to fit in, you know. I left my home. I was forced to leave home. It wasn't my choice. If I had a choice, I wouldn't want to leave home because I love my little village. I love my small town that I grew up with, you know, but I was forced. I didn't have no choice, right? But now trying to find a space to fit in a Western country for someone who is trans and Black, you know, and all this multiple, like, you know, intersectionality, I could not fit anywhere. And I remember calling my grandmother and I say, Grandma, I don't know where I belong, you know? I am not less of a human. I am a very smart person. I'm a strong person. I crossed borders. I crossed mountains. I crossed deserts to get to where I am today. And there's nobody on this earth can come up to me and say, I'm not strong enough, you know? My just getting to this point, it's my strength, you know? And, trying to, for languages I speak, I try to help my community, African communities, with like translations, there's a lot of African people that don't speak English, I try to show up for them. I would like go to the conferences. And my grandmother said, well, you need to create your own tribe. And when she said that, I didn't get it. I was like, what do you mean? Like, I'm in America. What tribe do you want me to create? And my grandmother said, well, if you don't think you belong anywhere, you don't need to belong places that you're not supposed to belong. You need to create your own tribe. That stuck with me. And I said, oh, okay. So my tribe is Black LGBT migrants that shares the same experience with me, that have an accent like me, that also not accepted in so many spaces. I don't want another trans migrant to go through the pain I went through when I first came to America. So in every chance I get, every place I go, I would snatch mic and I'm saying, we're here, Black trans migrants are here. You guys need to include us in conversations. You guys need to talk about Black trans migrants. People don't think Black trans migrants exist. They don't. When you talk about immigration, people usually just think about like Latinx people or like people from around the world, but they don't imagine Black trans migrants. So I had to create. I didn't have no choice but create a space for Black trans migrants. And like Joanna was saying, my sister was saying, we are very powerful people, and we are interconnected around the globe. Thanks to immigration, I know if I go to UK today, if I go to Norway, if I go to Germany, Black trans migrated all over the world. I have sisters and brothers in every corner of the world. I know we didn't migrate because of the luxury, but the fact that we are everywhere in the world, like if I go to Germany today, I don't pay for a hotel. I will go straight to my sister that lives there. If I go to Norway, I don't pay for a hotel. I go straight to my sister, So that is another way of like looking at in a positive way, with instead of just always listening to people that dehumanize you. It's like the power you have. Look, you paved the way for yourself, So yeah, when my grandmother told me to create your own tribe, that is the more like I keep that every single day, waking up and say, I'm going to stand up for my own tribe. I am not going to try to, beg for a space within the cis community, To tell you guys a story, so there was a conference, African conference, and it was like, I think, health summit thing that I got invited because I speak 5 different languages. They needed someone who will translate the language for them. They were just like, Wahida, we need your support. We need you here because we need to talk. They're trying to talk to a mayor and trying to take the ground, right? And I went and, I facilitated the conference because I speak all the languages, like, trying to translate. Towards the end of the conference, when the conference was successful, towards the end of the conference, where everyone was trying to take pictures and they try to, post it on social media. And guess what? None of those people that used my language skill wanted to take a picture with me. Because they made it clear that they didn't want to be seen with me on social media because I'm a trans woman, because it's an African, because it's not their culture. So, but they were comfortable using my language skill all day. I was doing the form, like translations and all kind of things for them. They used my labor, but they didn't want to be seen with me. That's where I got my lesson. I said, this is never going to happen to me ever again. I said, my pride, as a woman who lived life experience and traveled the world that my strength, I said, there's no way I would feel dehumanized again. And I would make sure this is not going to happen to another Black trans person. Mm-hmm. I will put my power, my skills, my voice, my privileges, the little privilege I have towards my community. That is why I created Black Trans Migrant United, because I'm going to be the front line for my community, you know? So, yeah.
That's wonderful. Yeah. Thank you so much for contextualizing that and further, you know, based on like what Drea was sharing and also how the advice that you got from your grandmother to create your own tribe, all of the ways that you have through Black Trans Unity, and then also you mentioned in the organizing with Black LGBT plus Migrant Project, and so many ways that we do. I think, you know, we've been having the conversations around like, surpassing resiliency, radical action, nurturing next generations, Black diaspora magic, and like even, you know, all of the ways that we proclaim and reclaim ourselves and are creating our tribes. And I think another topic, you know, that we definitely want to have and connect with is around trans artivism and reclaiming our power. And I think that Queen Jean has, you know, such an incredible way in the ways that Queen Jean, you, in all of your artistry and theater and music and dance, critically acclaimed, you know, dressing performers to tell stories. And so we're really lucky to have you here, Queen Jean. Would you share us, you know, with us a little bit, like how old were you when you first began tapping into your artistic magic, and, you know, what art forms was it? And then I have a few more questions, but yeah.
Oh my gosh. This is so incredible. Honestly, I am feeling so healed by this conversation. To be on a platform with sisters all over the world, different time zones, some of us hungry, some of us need a little snack, but that we are still here like sharing. We are sharing and we're inspiring. I think for me, I'll be honest, very early on, I knew that I was different, very early on, but I knew that I was not allowed to be different. I knew if I wanted to become extravaganza, you know, that it would be shamed. Both my parents are preachers, and it was something that I had to hide. Even like as an adult, I had to hide because I didn't want for any of the people at church to see anything on Facebook, Instagram, because you know how they are. They're very messy. Oh my God, look at what Andy's doing in New York. I thought they were going to study at school. Yes, and she's doing drag shows. Get it. But because I had to pay my rent. But it was one of those things that I realized very early on. When I was a child, when I was in school, I never wanted to go home. I knew when I went home, I had to hide. I would always like, you know, wear different outfits. When I got to school, I would get to the bus stop, put on my little skirt, put on my little wrap, you know, because I just wanted to find a way to connect with me, find a way to connect with Queen. So I ended up going to the library. The library was free. It was open till I think 8 or like 9 o'clock. And I would just read. I would read the magazines, the periodicals, a lot of the fashion photography. That is kind of what was my initial inspiration. A lot of architecture artists, a lot of French artists, a lot of Spanish artists. All of these incredible artists who I now had access to. Because if I went back home, I would have to be with my brothers, and like, no. So for me, that is kind of what was the inspiration. That is what really started. So I will say I was probably around like 11 or 12, really trying to understand how I wanted to articulate who I was. Mm-hmm. And of course, it wasn't until college that I met gay people, you know, because although there were gay people, hello, especially at school, especially at church, a lot of gay people, okay, a lot, but they were not visible, right? And I didn't have an understanding of it. I didn't meet a Black trans woman. I didn't meet another sister until I moved to New York. I didn't even know that I had access to family that way. for me, in terms of what I do as activism, it is important for me as for Black Trans Liberation, it's important for us to educate and to disrupt. All summer, we go to restaurants while people are eating, Black trans lives, we will stop your dinner. You are not going to eat while literally 6 women were killed this week. 6 Black women were killed in 1 week. And now you're eating, and now you're having a glass of wine? No. You're going to listen. You're going to listen to trans women. You're going to open up your phone. You're going to donate to organizations right now. So that is how we do it. I'm tired of waiting. I realize we're not going to wait for someone to save us. Donald Trump was never going to save us. Okay, I still don't believe Joe Biden is going to save us. Black trans women, trans women will always be in a state of emergency. So for me, I want to realize, how do we create a task force? How do we create ways to protect our girls? How do we create ways so that no one has to actually go into sex work? That we can create something that people can work. So for me, in terms of artivism, I mean, we've been meeting every week. And we go into the streets. Part of what we're doing, I now describe it as a ritual, right? Where we have song, we have dance. We literally are channeling into our ancestral rhythm. That is something that we all innately have. As trans women, that's our magic, right? We all naturally know how to cook good. We always look good. That's just who we are. We have those instincts. That's not something that just like you read about. It's something that we grow into. You grow into the power of your woman. So for me, as part of the activism, the artivism is going out and letting the community know, letting the people know, going out to the streets, dancing, celebrating. Yes, 4 sisters were killed today, but we're going to celebrate their life because they deserve that. They deserve to be celebrated like gods, like goddesses, because their own families will not accept the woman that they were raising. They would rather lie. They would rather say, oh, she died of COVID, right? Oh, she was sick. And so for me, and that has happened. That is so hurtful to know that even in passing, your life was not celebrated. So for me, that is the way that we fight back. That is the way that we do it. Not only to disrupt, but to educate, to empower, and to celebrate our trans family.
If I can, I love you so much, Queen Jean. I met Queen Jean about, I think 3 months ago now, through a mutual friend who introduced us. And then started joining with the activism, which Stonewall protests that she leads as part of the Black Trans Liberation movement that she's. There's something that I just wanted to say, again, going back to like what I was talking about, like disidentifying with. I'm not a religious person. But I grew up I went to a Pentecostal church where I heard some nonsense, okay? But so I have an interest, I don't have a relationship with religion, and Queen Jean, please correct me if I'm wrong, but Queen Jean, someone who grew up with like in the church, what she's bringing into these streets, okay, it is a spiritual awakening for me. I am used to protests, I've been to protests, but never before have I felt as though like we are marching for me. We're marching for Queen Jean. We're marching for trans women specifically. We have allies who are coming and they're getting a dose of Black joy, okay, in the midst of all of this. Because one thing that around Black people is that we have to have joy, even in the midst of us being dogged by the police, even by us not having all the legislative protections that we need and we should have. Even while we were getting our butts whipped in the days of slavery, you know what we had? Each other, and we found ways to find joy. Otherwise, we will all kill ourselves. And I just want to just say, Queen Jean, I don't even know if you know your full power yet, but I think about you literally almost every day since I met you 3 months ago. And this phone call, this Zoom thing that we're doing to come out later for our sisters and for allies, for everybody to know, I just want you to know from my heart, and actually to everyone here, but Queen Jean, I think of you as someone who is like a leader for the leaders. And you are phenomenal. And I just need to say that. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for making that connection, and totally agree. There's just, all of this magic, and I'm so glad that we're all feeling ourselves and each other with the work that we do. I know that, you were getting to all the ways that art directly speaks to you, the activism that you are part of and the ways that you don't. Maybe also some maybe also the solidarity in the artistic spaces and stuff. I think maybe Alejandra can also offer us some context. Alejandra, we're just so lucky to have you for many ways. For us, you're such a goddess and a grand example of a lot of great organizing and creating institutions and organizations in the US, a lot of research in Mexico around trans liberation. And so, thanks to like your leadership around co-founding ELA para Trans Latina in the Bay Area, I think maybe some time ago, maybe like sometime in the 2000s, I met you through the Association of Joteria Arts, Activism, and Scholarship, and all sorts of spaces that we're carving out as trans and queer people. And so we're delighted to have you. What can you share with us in terms of, your upbringing in Mexico and this that you have contributed to our movement in so many ways? ¿Qué nos cuentas? And then also wanted to ask you some follow-up about that.
Yeah, thank you so much. What a great honor and privilege to share this space with you. Really, I'm amazed by all of you and your testimonies, because it makes me realize we are survivors. And I think, Drea, you're the one that said, we are living, and we definitely, like, I'm, over 50 years old, very proud to be. And I think in a way, you just made me realize how fortunate I am that I'm sharing this space with all of you, and to be able to tell you that I went through the same thing in a different generation, that some of you have been going through generations, because when I was a teenager, I suffered persecution and violence here in Mexico City, and it was horrible. It was the police that will persecute us, they will violate us, they will rape us sexually, they will take our money, they will take us to our house to demand money to let us go. And I mean, I was on my way to school, I was already transitioned, and police will stop me, and they will bring me to my house and ask my mom for money to let me go. Otherwise, they will threaten my mother to, they will be taking me to jail. So eventually, as a way of survival, I have to escape all this. And I went to the US, and like all of us have been talking about intersectionalities. So when I get to the US, I discovered that I'm not only a transgender teenager, but now I'm an undocumented, I'm a person of color, I speak with an accent, I'm an illegal alien, considered an illegal alien in a country that doesn't understand me, that I don't understand their culture, they don't understand mine either. So all these intersectionalities, I think that's what makes us very strong and give us the resilience that makes us the amazing woman that we are, because we are, all of us are goddesses, because we've been through so much, and some of us have to escape that and go to other lands to survive. That it is amazing how in other land and other country, speaking other languages, we can adapt and we can survive and we can demonstrate that we are human, that we are worth, that we are strong, that we are resilient, and that we can do some amazing work. For me, it was like really a blessing to be able to organize and mobilize my communities, my people. And thank you. I think it was Wahira. You said it right. I think when we think about migrants, for some reason, it escaped to us. The migrants are from everywhere. That the migrations are globally. That it's all of us, Black, Asian, Latinx, I mean, from everywhere. And thank you so much for reminding us that we need to start thinking globally about trans migrants, because we are sisters, we are brothers. And it's amazing to learn that through you, and it opened my eyes that how we are able to even create our own tribes, whether it be urban tribes or local tribes or etc. But we are able to create these groups of survivors, just like we are right now in this space. We are sharing our experiences, our lives. Thank you, Queen Jean, for saying it gets to me how we need to think about disrupting and celebrating the lives of our dead, of our sisters and brothers that have been murdered and they have been violated. Because that's right. We need to take action and be a voice for those who didn't have a chance. And for me, that's where it's at. I'm here and like her name escaped to me. Oh my gosh, she's gonna be so mad at me. But maybe some of you will remember. She made the movie. She said, "I'm still fucking here," and yes, we are still fucking here, and we can be a voice. Yes, thank you, and we can be a voice for those who didn't have a chance. And thank you so much. Yeah,
absolutely, Ali, for all those palabras. Really very much grateful for the way that you're contextualizing, just there's so much that we've contributed already, so much that we've been surviving and thriving. I wanted to ask you also, Alexandra, and the rest of you all, in terms of like the solidarity movement in arriving to an all women, all gender solidarity toward a trans inclusive feminism. And, we see a lot of solidarity and examples in Mexico City, in Colombia, Red Comunitaria Trans, and the work that y'all are doing. And this could be generally specifically to you all if you have anything to say about the work that you're doing, but really for all of us, where do we see this solidarity, this feminist solidarity of all women and people of all genders? In Mexico, for example, like I know that for a lot of our community activists, and I know Janice has brought up at times, like, we're just not even sure. There's approaching these spaces is always an interesting dynamic. And so then there have been a lot of like trans Mexican immigrants that also reference like Mexico City and some like recent examples. What does that look like, and what is your take on some of that? And or maybe even Julia, what do we learn out of how you all are organizing an all-inclusive trans feminist space?
Yeah, for me, it has been a really a pleasure. The fact that I'm considered binational and bicultural, because I have lived more in the US than in my own country, but I'm back. And like many people say, I learned the American way. We know what that means, but in a way it's good, because that way I'm able to not only do work from here, but I'm also have the experience of the work that I did in the US. And I think that's a great thing, because in a way, I'm able to level the work that I'm doing here with the work that I've done in the US. And even though there's more challenges here, because there's not many financial help, there's not many people really willing to sacrifice like we do in the US, to be able to do the work that we do for our sisters and our brothers. But I know that I can do it, and that drives me. That gives me the passion that I know that drove me to do the work that I did in the US. It's the same passion that keeps driving me here in Mexico, and creating alliances and keep forming these tribes that Guajira talks about with other feminist movements, with other transgender populations here, which here it really hurts me, because the situation for most of my sisters, specifically trans sex workers and trans people that live with HIV, is very precarious. And also transgender people of age, third generations are really struggling to survive in a society that doesn't really do much for them. But thanks to the movements and the alliances that we are creating, we are giving visibility to these populations, to these communities. And even though we have the great challenge of this pandemic, the COVID-19 pandemic right now, and that has also taught us and show us and demonstrate that there are communities that are even and more they are more vulnerable than even our own communities. So therefore, the fight, the resistance is still on, and we gotta continue doing what we're doing, like in this case, opening these spaces so we can all share our experiences, so we can all share what's going on in our regions and take actions. Yeah. No te escuchamos.
Thank you so much, Alexandra. And would you like to contribute some of that as well, Julia? About the solidarity work in Red Comunitaria Trans?
Sí, a mí se me viene a la mente un momento en Colombia cuando desde la Red Comunitaria Trans decidimos separarnos del movimiento LG. Decidimos irnos, porque sentíamos que muchas veces las necesidades de las personas trans no eran escuchadas. Entonces dijimos, acá no estamos siendo escuchadas y no están priorizando nuestras necesidades. La narrativa del movimiento LGBT en Colombia históricamente ha sido narrada por hombres gays blancos privilegiados. Y en este espacio no nos sentíamos identificadas, y por eso decidimos armar un espacio de movilización de personas trans. Armar un espacio en el que vimos y en el que queríamos que fuera un espacio donde todas las personas que hayan sentido o que sintieron en un momento de su vida discriminación, exclusión, por ser y por existir, serían bienvenidos en este espacio. y hablábamos de las personas con discapacidad, de las personas negras, de las trabajadoras sexuales, de las usuarias de drogas, de todas estas identidades que históricamente han querido borrar y sacar del espacio. Dijimos, este va a ser un espacio que vamos a construir de manera conjunta y donde no vamos a borrar a nadie. Y pensábamos mucho en esas marchas del orgullo LGB, en el cual a las personas trans nos decían en la parte de atrás, o no muestren sus tetas porque qué pena terrible que van a decir los niños. Y creamos un movimiento muy fuerte que es Yo Marcho Trans, un movimiento interseccional, un movimiento feminista, un movimiento de la calle, un movimiento que habla de la autonomía del cuerpo, de la decisión sobre el cuerpo. Y se ha gestado, ya lleva 4 años movilizándose. Este año, con pandemia, con el COVID, logramos movilizarnos más de 1.500 personas el 3 de julio en las calles, cumpliendo todos los protocolos de seguridad para decir, nos están matando. Entonces, nosotras sí creemos en la interseccionalidad, pero no en el discurso, no, porque la palabra interseccionalidad se está volviendo como una muletilla que ahora todo el mundo utiliza. Sí, soy interseccional, sí, guau, guau. No, en la acción, en la práctica. Nuestro espacio es un espacio seguro para todos esos cuerpos que le han negado el ser, que les han cerrado la puerta en la cara, que les han dicho no puede ser. Y por otro lado, nosotras nos hemos construido como una organización feminista, porque creemos que ser mujer no es un cuerpo homogéneo, sino que hay millones de formas de ser mujer y hay millones de formas de ser hombre. Y con el feminismo y gracias al feminismo hemos logrado primero generar redes de afecto, de sororidad, hablar de cuidado colectivo como arma política, pero también nos ha permitido a las mujeres trans vernos al espejo y hacer las paces con nuestro cuerpo. Toda la vida nos habían dicho que las mujeres no podemos tener barba, o no podemos tener la voz gruesa, o no podemos ser grandes y gordas como yo. Y el feminismo nos permitió decir, quiero mi cuerpo como es, sin tener que mutilarlo, abrazarlo y cuidarlo. Por eso creemos en la lucha del feminismo decolonial y creemos en el feminismo que nos incluye a las mujeres trans. Por eso, a todas esas vertientes del feminismo transexcluyente, repito, que se están fortaleciendo en México, en España y Colombia, les decimos con todo el corazón que no pasarán. Sus discursos de odio no pasarán. Nuestra estrategia, la estrategia del movimiento trans en Colombia, en muchas partes del mundo, será el amor radical. Y creemos que ese discurso que vuelve a utilizar argumentos biologicistas y esencialistas no va a pasar ni en Colombia ni en ningún lado.
Eso, sí, precisamente. Gracias, Julia, por eso, a todas ustedes, por todo lo que hacen, el contexto que nos están ofreciendo. Queremos concluir con el hecho de que en el futuro, igual que en el pasado y en el presente, la gente trans hemos existido. En el futuro existimos también y somos partes de nuestras sociedades en el futuro tan natural que igual que la naturaleza. Y ustedes siempre nos ayudan a ver esta realidad y a darnos cuenta de hecho, simplemente por ser quien son, por existir cada día, por su resistencia y sus acciones. Y queríamos saber quizás con unas pocas palabras o con unas palabras o frases de cada uno de ustedes, ¿cuál es la manera que pueden describir cómo las comunidades trans, disculpe, lo estoy tratando de decir en español, pero essentially what I'm trying to get at is what are a few words or a way that you would describe the ways you envision trans people and non-conforming migrants and non-conforming people in the future? How do you envision trans futures? Would anybody like to share a few words?
I'll go. In 2015, I coined hashtag trans is worthy. And it's something for me where it is, even just listening to this conversation and just seeing the power that is here, the magic that is here, we're all doing amazing things. And I just think that we don't yet live in a world where it's just automatic that we trans people in the American context where they talk about life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That is, and that's why so many of us migrate here, because it is that still that city upon the hill where, oh, everything is amazing over there until you get here and you realize. But trans is worthy of all those things, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And it needs to be I think it's something that needs to be said until it's ingrained in the psyche. So I do think in the future, that will be something that would be left unsaid because it will just be that we are worthy of just taking our breath. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Appreciate it. Yes. Thank you, Drea.
I love that.
Share more, Wahida.
Oh, yeah. Andrea, thank you so much. That's so beautiful. We are worthy. We are valid. How do I imagine a trans future? I imagine trans and gender nonconforming in a beautiful island where cis people are not allowed. No, I'm just kidding. I'm joking. I'm joking. Of course, no. Yeah. I think I'm like imagining, trans and gender nonconforming people. I want to see ourselves in a world where we don't have to justify our existence and our values, and where I'm imagining in the future where trans young kids don't have to even mention about identities. Where it's not even going to be. It's a past thing, right? Because I think that's why we're doing the work. We're paving the way so that normalizing, whatever normal is, like just making it like we've always been here before, way before colony, and we'll continue being here, So for that, I want to see ourselves in a position where we don't have to justify our existence. We are powerful human beings. We are amazing. And we'll continue being amazing. I think it will only get better. It will only get better. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Wahida. Alexandra?
Yeah, gracias a todas. Y para mí, creo que seguir resistiendo, seguir luchando y más que nada, seguir viviendo. Y así poder pavimentar el camino para las nuevas generaciones, de la misma manera que lo hicieron nuestras hermanas in the past, like Sylvia Rivera, like Marsha P. Johnson, and many others that made the sacrifice for us to be able to be here today. Yeah, gracias.
Ashe. Thank you for those palabras.
Can I go?
Mm-hmm.
I always tell my queer babies, my trans babies, I want you to dream big and in HD. Because if you can visualize it, you have a roadmap. And so in the future, I see a world where young people can dream big, where they realize the power that they have in them. I think as trans people, we are people who we manifested ourselves into existence, and I think there's power in that. When I look at myself in the mirror, I'm like, I birthed the woman in front of me. She was just an idea of a young child. And so there's power in that. And when you liberate yourself, you unconsciously liberate the people around you. When we look at the course of human history, many of the nations that started declaring independence, they all started declaring one country declared independence. All of a sudden, you start to see a bunch of countries declaring independence. One country abolished slavery, and all of a sudden, you start seeing a bunch of other countries and islands abolishing slavery. Same thing with marriage equality. When you are able to see something, you can't be what you can't see. And so I see all of our struggles, our luchas, they're all interlinked, and I love being part of this kind of conversation because we are a global community. We are all interconnected. There's this idea that we are separate from one another. That's illusion. We are interconnected. And so, yes, when I'm governor of Puerto Rico, because yes, I have a plan to be governor, we will make, St. Clair, she asked me to say out loud, we will make Puerto Rico a trans-Wakanda in the Caribbean. So I want you all ladies to come down here at some point. You're always welcome in my home. I feel my soul is uplifted and nourished in this conversation with you all. So thank you.
Gracias, Joana. Y también, Julia, ¿cómo envisionas el futuro para la comunidad
Yo
trans?
creo que las personas trans tenemos un reto muy grande y es seguir llegando a puestos de toma de decisión. Necesitamos mujeres trans presidentas, necesitamos mujeres trans gobernadoras, necesitamos mujeres trans senadoras, necesitamos que las personas trans sigamos cumpliendo nuestro sueño. Y a todas esas personas trans que la están pasando mal en este momento, yo creo que hay que decirles que todo va a estar bien, que no permitamos que nadie nos quite y nos acabe con las ganas de luchar, con las ganas de vivir. Que muchas personas allá afuera están trabajando fuertemente por construir un mundo donde ustedes después van a poder ser la mariposa o ser el animal, la especie que siempre han soñado. Seguiremos construyendo un mundo en el que no importe lo que tenemos entre las piernas. Seguiremos construyendo un mundo donde las personas trans seamos felices.
Ashe, que así sea, y allí llegaremos juntas, juntes, con todos a nivel mundial, recordándoles aquí el programa con Familia Trans Liberation Movement y gran líderes por todas partes de nuestro mundo. Gracias a todas por acompañarnos y que pasen muy buenas noches.